Hi, I'm Deborah Price, CEO and founder of the Money Coaching Institute, and this is Conversation About Money. Today I am with Jacinta Ebsworth, who is visiting me on the show today from Australia. And Jacinta, you've been a money coach now for a few years, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And what part of Australia are you living in currently?
I live in Perth, Western Australia.
Western Australia. That is a place that I have yet to visit. I've been to other parts of Australia, but I hear it's just gorgeous.
Yes, it's beautiful. Very warm right now, but yeah, very beautiful.
Fantastic. So, I want to learn more about your journey, what sort of drew you to this work, and then a little bit more about what you're up to today. Can you share with us a little bit about your background and what made you decide that you wanted to bring money coaching into your world and your work?
Yeah, so I've always been like interested in money. I took a little but a budgeting course when I was in high school. So I've always had like my spreadsheet going. And then as I got older, I was really interested. I just wanted to have like an investment portfolio and I didn't really know what that meant. I just wanted it. And then about 10 years ago, I read the book, The Barefoot Investor, and applied the sort of steps that were relevant to me at the time. So building an emergency fund, investing in shares, and yeah, and then I moved overseas and I moved to New York for the second time. And when I was there, the pandemic happened. And at that point, I gave me an opportunity to sort of reflect on what I wanted, what I was doing. I think because a lot of us were sort of faced with the what if about mortality. And so did an exercise about my values and what I wanted to do. And it really drilled down to sort of women and money and like empowering them around that. And so when I returned to Australia, I had looked into studying and I was doing a financial counseling course. So here that's a service offered by or through not-for-profits. So, and it's very specific to sort of help people struggling with their debt and things. So I was studying that, but it wasn't quite aligning with what I wanted because I wanted to be able to work for myself. And then I connected with some people in the financial space, and a lot of them had referred me, a lot of them advisors had done this course and they referred me to the Money Coaching Institute. So
Okay.
that's how I got my certification. And then I was really excited because I like that it was nothing to do with spreadsheets because I had found people are really or can be really averse to the numbers and budgeting, and then they just sort of block it off. And then to be in the course and understand patterns, emotions, and behaviors around money and money in the brain, that really resonated with me. And yeah, and here I am.
Here you are. It is interesting, when you think about it, because so much of personal finance, anyway, is just very simple arithmetic, right?
Mm,
And yet, you're right. People do get rather overwhelmed and triggered around just the idea of looking at the numbers. Did you experience that in your work prior to this as well? I mean, just noticing
yes.
that?
Yeah. So Uh, I found that a lot of people, it's like you had said when we were studying the innocent archetype, it's a lot of a common one amongst women, like bury your head in the sand. Don't want it, like it'll figure itself out. I don't want to look at it. That sort of mentality. Whereas I haven't had that. Like I guess I got a hyperfixation on money and then I'm very intrigued by it. But I found working with people and also because we discuss like your primary caregiver's relationship with money. I'm one of four, so I have three siblings, and so I know we each have a different relationship with money. And so I think being from a bigger family, I was able to see that impact because none of us get the same version of our parents, even if we live in the same house. And I think for a lot of people, maybe if you only had like one other sibling, you just think, oh, maybe I'm not as good as they are. But because I have four, I can see like a varying
Absolutely.
difference in age and gender. And yeah, so I think that's been really unique. And yeah, I can see the difference in people avoiding. And then I can also understand why. Yeah.
Yeah. So in your family, where are you in sibling order?
I'm number two, but we're 13 months apart.
Okay.
So it's like
Sort
close.
of the
And then I
second
have,
oldest.
yeah, but like mentally the oldest. And then
Now,
younger
are you
brothers.
are you the one who's the best with money of the three or four?
No, I'd say it's me and the fourth. So
Okay.
it like when every
Interesting.
second, yeah, but also different in how we approach it as well.
Mm.
And also, it's not necessarily good. It's just I have a very intentional relationship with my money, but I worked hard to like understand it. Yeah, that was like a priority for me.
I also really love just how you develop such a curiosity and interest in money at an early age. And
Mm,
I find that often is sort of a foretelling of someone's future in the financial services industry. I was
hmm
very interested in money and making money at a very early age. Now, later on, I discovered that a lot of the reason why I went out to work literally at the age of 8, I used to clean houses, was also to escape my environment, so
hmm
I didn't figure that part out until later. But what do you have any remembrance relative to what drew your curiosity?
So I think because I was very aware of my parents' finances. And so I did unpack this when in the course when we
Yeah,
were getting coached. Um, my parents rented, and I'm one of four, which is still actually a large family for even like growing up in the
sure.
90s. Um, I was very aware. I had one parent working, and while my mum was studying, we went to thrift stores like op shops, and we always had really old secondhand cars. And I was like embarrassed by one of them at one point. It was like a white car, but with a yellow bonnet. And I was just like, this is like
Sounds
I
familiar.
knew, yeah, yeah. And then also brand, like you really become aware of brands. And um I didn't have like I don't know what you'd call this kid, like high like surf brands and high-end brands of clothing. Like mine would have been from places that were like more affordable. I started working at 13 and 9 months because my dad said you're legally old enough to work, so you have to get a job, but also you still have to do your chores. I was the first friend to have a job for like
Hmm.
2 years, and none of them like had to have a job. There was no like I had pocket money when I worked, but when I was before I got a job. But then after that, it was like no more pocket money for you because obviously there's four kids. And yeah, I was always very conscious of the finances, whereas I don't think any of my friends had like any awareness. And I
Mm.
also had a best friend in high school who had like her father worked away, which was unheard of back then. Like I didn't know anyone who worked away. Now it's very common in mining, but um, very affluent and not affluent in a large way, just like for me as a kid, it would be going to someone's pantry and I could clock like how much
Yeah.
money they had. Because I was like, yo, Oreos. And that was like to get Oreos in Australia
Yeah,
was like expensive. And then
right.
just to have just to have all treats, it's like Doritos and and the
Yeah.
vegetable drawer was chocolates. Like I was like, oh, we don't have like a surplus. It was like Friday night, you had ice cream, like a tub of ice cream, and we like shared a Coke. And like that was it. It did not last the week. And it's not in a way of being poor, it's just like being conscious. And then
Yeah.
I think I was exposed to that much earlier than anyone else my own age. And that's why I was like excited about the budgeting because I was like, oh, I have to know about it. And so I wanted to study it. But
So do you remember making a conscious choice to make, that you were going to have a different life?
uh I don't know that it was conscious, but I think it
Hmm.
was subconscious. And then as I got older, like other things happened and I was like, oh my, like I don't want to live like this. And I think the other part, being older though, spending so much of my adult life as a single woman, I couldn't plan for my finances in partnership with someone because they didn't exist. So there was no splitting bills with someone or going in on something together. Like everything has been of my own from my own bank account. So
Yeah.
I didn't, yeah, I know how to. make my own money work for me. Yeah.
which is what I wish every woman knew. Actually,
Yes.
not just every woman, every human, because
Yes.
as you know, probably from your training, men often don't know any more than women do, but they also have a harder time asking for help and support. So I feel for everyone in that we just haven't been given what we've
Yeah.
needed. And it's really not our parents' fault either because, think about it. Nobody talked about money at all. I mean, it was
Hmm.
really the last of the great taboos. We started unpacking our sex lives on public television before we started talking about money. So,
Hmm.
it's the last of the great taboos. And so nobody really knew where to go or even that it was a potential issue. We just suffered silently and felt like, at least it was better than maybe your generation before, your mother or father before you, and that was the most you could hope for. But now
Yeah,
it's different.
definitely.
Now we actually know a lot about people and money, and we know that people need more. So, what
Hmm.
is it what's your vision relative to what you would like to create now at this point? Because you've been out there for a while, you probably had enough time to determine what your audience is and who you
Hmm.
most like to be working with. So tell me a little bit about your vision as you move forward.
My vision is to build community. So I want women to be able to come together and learn about themselves and money and build like a confidence and an empowerment that they that they can do this and then yeah, just share with others. I mean, the vision the vision is matriarchy. Well, to utilize that as like a foundation. And I think you're right. Like not talking about it also feeds into it's a form of isolation. And that has been
Mm,
the model of the past. But I think
mm,
now with social media and like more of an online presence and able to connect to people in other countries very easily, we can sort of, the veil has been
yes.
taken away and we can be like, oh, you're experiencing that too, or like, oh, that's how you did it. Like there's a lot of knowledge sharing
Yeah.
and experiences, and it's really helpful and insightful. So yeah, my vision is to create a space building community. So futuristically to build like online containers that I can work with people on 3 to 6 months, but in a group setting. Yeah, and then also additionally
Wonderful.
have one-to-one. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, is there a particular audience of women, or as far as you're concerned, you would work with many different kinds of groups of women,
Mm,
um, et cetera, demographics wise?
yeah. I think I found uh when people are ready to engage in this, they are like the age range is sort of 35 to 55.
Hmm.
And I've also found it's either single women or women who have gone through a hardship like separation, uh, or maybe someone's
Widows.
past, widows. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that seems to be the people who engage most of me. So yeah, they're at like a point of, I want to understand this better, like solo, or this has happened to me, and like I want to unpack this and be able to move forward. But obviously, any age is welcome. But even I think I was a bit ahead of the average when
Hmm.
I mean, from being so young, but also just in my 20s. And I say to people, the number one thing for like approaching your finances is curiosity. Like that's what you need. And you need to stay curious.
Absolutely.
You don't you don't stop about, oh, I've learned it. You never learn everything. And and yeah, it can be really simple and boring and repetitive, but I'm like, for instance, I say to people, how many times have I saved an emergency fund? And I was like, five, because like it's a skill to save and it's a skill to spend. And then, but I know how to do that. I know that
Right.
habit, like it's a pattern in me. It's like, oh, I need to top that up. And then I'm like, all right, that percentage goes into
Yeah.
that account and we do that for a year. And it's just a reflex now, which is what I want people to get to. Like, oh, I know how to do that rather than, as we said before, like burying your head in the sand of like, I don't want to look at that.
Yeah, and also knowing it's a great builder of confidence to
Mm,
just know that you can do it
hmm
and you can save it and then you create it and then you can spend it and you can recreate
hmm
it. It's not like
hmm
there's this sense of, people will often panic, well, and,
hmm
I don't have enough. And it's like,
Yep.
well, there is, I believe there ultimately that we are more powerful at creating than we believe.
hmm
And that's actually part of what is difficult to help people understand. It's not magical
hmm
thinking, right? It's not
Yeah.
magical thinking that to believe that you can create the resources that you need.
hmm
But the problem is that people often don't know how because no one has taught them, and or they
Yes.
do not have the fundamental belief that they can do it.
Yes.
Other people can do it. That's easy for you or whatever, but I actually believe that we can teach people how to do that. But
hmm
it doesn't, and I'm definitely not somebody who believes in, if you think it, it will happen because no,
Mm.
it won't. You have to do
Yeah.
something differently.
hmm
So how has it been for you when you're working with people who have resistance? Because
hmm
you know what's possible. You have gone from living the life you did as a child to creating the life you live now, and now
hmm
being somebody who facilitates others to
hmm
create and learn about themselves, discover and transform whatever they need to in order to create something new and different and better, right?
hmm
So, how have you navigated the resistance when it arises?
I think, well, when I'm working with people one on one, I I take like the pause. So for them to reflect, like if I'm like, do you hear what you just said? Or like, what did you mean by that? And then because once they're in the coaching, they are accessing like self-awareness. They're there for a reason. Once they've done the exercises, and a lot of them, it's definitely after doing their parent or primary caregiver's relationship to money, then they can start clocking. And it's also the time in between. So in between the sessions, so if it's like 2 weeks, they come back to me and they're like, oh, so this happened. And I realized, and so I like to give them the sort of space to reflect and come back and see because resistance is a part of it. But I also like to ask maybe like what who's responding now? Like is it the child when this example happened, or is it the teenager? Is it the 20-year-old? Like where are you responding from? Like where is this? I think
Yeah.
the resistance is you're being triggered. And
Yes.
so yeah, for them I like to sort of as a coach, it's like I'm there to like support them, but they have the answers in them. And I just
Sometimes.
I nurture, yeah, sometimes nurture them. But yeah, I just having the open-ended questions to
Right.
guide them to get a bit more reflective on like, oh, okay, that's why. Or even ask them what emotion is coming up for you right now.
Yeah.
Because and it's not to say I'm perfect with money. I have to sit and be like, why? An example is for me, I'm better now. I really don't like paying for parking. Like it's just something in me of I just hate it. And I used to just avoid and drive around and loop and find somewhere else. And then I get more frustrated and worked up. And then I read a book called Your Rich Life, and it was like you have to sort of make way for like what would make your life easier. Like, and then I thought about it in that sense. I was like, oh yeah, me driving around getting angry doesn't like help when I'm like going to go meet someone for
Exactly.
dinner. And I was like, I'll just pay it. But I had to unpack like for myself, like why that $4, $5 choice grates on me so much. And I think it's more like a fundamental system thing of like, why do we have to pay for space? Like I'm very sort of like community oriented. So that stuff always sort of
Mm.
aggravates me.
So, what archetype was that for you?
Oh, oh, Is that the tyrant?
You
I
know,
feel
it
like for
feels a little
control.
bit based upon
Or
what
is
you
that the
said
warrior?
last, which is a little bit of anger toward the system.
Mm,
Like, why can't it just be free? We're a community.
yeah,
That's the
creative
creator
artist.
artist,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The creator
yeah.
artist is really like, come on, man, this whole money thing, do we really have to live
Mm,
this way? Why can't we live and not have money be about everything in the world? And so
yeah,
there's your creator artist right there.
yeah, definitely. Oh, then I have definitely been leaning into that archetype of late.
It has now when people start activating a little bit more around the man, and
Mm,
the
mm,
system and how everything's kind of messed up. And believe me, I've been going there a lot lately. But
hmm
when that becomes sort of like an entrenched reality for someone and they get stuck in it, that's the victim. And the creator, artist, and
Oh,
victim can collude a little bit with each other from time to time. But that's not what I was hearing with you. I was
yeah.
really hearing the creator artist.
Okay. Oh no, that's good to know that. Yeah, like I like to think about how the two may like feed into each other and discuss that with clients. But yeah, it's not that I'm perfect with it. It's just having the awareness. That's all I want to teach people is like, oh, to clock it and be like, where is this coming from? Or yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really is important, I think, for people to understand. Anybody listening to this, please understand, we don't think the goal is to become perfect with money
hmm
because, first of all, nobody's perfect. Perfection is actually highly overrated. It's about becoming more conscious and more
hmm
aware of not only just the financial dynamics in your life at a practical level, but conscious and aware of what's operating within you, right?
hmm
What's driving you? And if we can create that awareness, we become increasingly more conscious, and then that will in turn, and does, we see it every day, impact the way that we respond and the ability to overcome some of these dynamics and transform, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think one of the greater outcomes that you experienced yourself relative to money coaching? Was there anything that stood
Do you
out for
mean
you
with a client or with yeah,
with
uh
just your own coaching? Was there
my
anything?
own coaching? I think that understanding the warrior archetype and how I operate from from that archetype when it comes up and sort of the circumstance and why. I think that was really powerful to understand and um yeah, just like unpacking that and where it came from. I don't have like an excessive, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like some people give examples of like spending a lot or shopping. I was just like, I know the things that I love spending money on, and I know the things that obviously I don't. And I think I remember from the course when you talked about delayed gratification, and that one is not that one's huge, and I think about that all the time. And I think from saving these emergency funds and like other savings I've done, I was like, I feel really confident in
Mm.
what I've been able to do and I know that from a magician archetype standpoint, like I believe in myself because I was like, I can't once you've done it, you can't be like, you'll never be able to do it. I was like, no, but I did it. It's like you've
That's right.
immediately sort of cancelled out. And I want everyone to feel that, to be like, oh, I can save that amount that I need, or like I can master my retirement account. But I want people to feel that, oh, the voice or whatever narrative that you have had from an
Well, and
experience when you were younger.
the
Yes.
confidence that comes from that is
Yeah.
profound. And
Yeah.
as you know, there are some people who've never felt confident around money ever,
Yeah.
not once in
Yeah.
their life.
hmm
So that's a beautiful thing, and I thank you for
Yeah.
showing up to do that because it's so
Yes.
important, you know.
Yes. It's
So
great.
do you have any a particular favorite experience with a client that you might like to share where somebody came and you just had an amazing experience that also was highly beneficial to them?
I think the one of the ones actually had a client contact me last night. So we worked together a couple of years ago, and since then, She's moved to Thailand. Her profession, she is a teacher, and she moved there and was working at a school. I think she was an assistant principal. And now, as of yesterday, she sent me a video. She has purchased a school. And
Wow.
so we went from, she was a single mother. We were working out sort of her habits and beliefs. And to see in just a matter of a few years that she could hold a vision and keep it and work towards it and like how it aligned for her was so powerful. She left me like a beautiful voice note about sort of working together and how much it changed. And it was confidence because she had her confidence rattled from her circumstance and situation. And but she was like gung ho, like I want to figure this out. And that's like that was the most beautiful thing. It was like, can you help me? Can we do this? And we did. And just
Great.
I want people to know it's not it's not like the next day or the next month.
Right.
It's a slow burn and it's integrating what you have like unpacked and learned and the shift that you've made and like the long-term effect of because she wouldn't have had the confidence to move countries with her child. She wouldn't have had the confidence to leave like a well-paying job there as an assistant principal. But she saw the vision, and I said to her, "This is so funny." I was like, "You told me this before you left. Like I saw this for you, and you were like years before was like, I'd love to have my own school." Or like teaching English, something along those lines, and then to see it come to fruition is a beautiful thing. So I think the long-term benefits of investing in yourself and healing and shifting core beliefs that you may have, it's astronomical. It's limitless, like what can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's really kind of amazing. I don't know about you, but I rarely have an experience with a client where they don't leave with something pretty significant that they've learned and shifted.
Hmm.
Um, and it varies from one person to the next in terms of
Hmm.
how big that is. And sometimes I think, and I don't know if you've experienced this or not, I'd like to know, um, if like you see that over a period of time, sometimes they'll call back and go, hey, I I didn't even recognize until a year later just how much this work impacted me. And I think I need to do a little bit more
Hmm.
because it doesn't happen all at once. It the integration is not something that transpires all at once. And I think to some degree, um, the same is true with therapy. We're not therapists, but we do a very deep coaching process. And, I think of all the therapy I've had in my life, and the big ahas sometimes even years after I had completed the therapy. And it was like, so all of a sudden you wake up and you go, my God, now I understand, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So have you
No,
had that
that's
kind of feedback yet from people where they're like, I'm still in it?
yes. I've had people sort of I think it's like, and I resonate with you on the therapy part as well, because that's definitely been me. I'm like, oh, like, but it can be months, years later.
Yeah.
I've had people, well, I think it's the circumstance. So again, like something major can happen in terms of their life, and they're responding from the the way they used to behave. So it's like triggering that like the way they might stress about a decision or the negative self-talk. And it's if they feel sort of confident to sort of reconnect and be like, hey, this happened. So I'm thinking like there's something else to explore here. And I
Mm.
always and I, I'm totally open to discussing with them and like working through it again and sort of deepening the understanding. Sometimes they just need a bit of encouragement, or there is something else to unpack. And they're like, and once you know from the circumstance, you're
Yep.
like, oh, okay, this happened. So for some people, it might be um, a parent passing away,
Yeah.
dealing with
Big life
the will.
transitions.
Yeah, yeah. And like that shift, and maybe you have to be the executor, or like something happened with siblings, and yeah, that can be monumental, obviously, a marriage separation, something happening with a child,
Yeah.
breaking up with a partner, like major things, and people can either revert or it brings up something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why, for some reason, I've been noticing a lot of people also getting really triggered by the economy. Just going,
Yes.
okay, I thought I was fine, but now things look kind of dicey out there, and I'm starting to
Hmm.
get, some old stuff is coming up, and I think I need to do a little bit more work. Um,
Hmm.
so what's it like for you guys over there in the economy, and are you finding that people are starting to get a little freaked out, or is it still pretty calm?
So what we were discussing before we came onto the call was being based in Australia. Uh, Something very prominent here is housing. So we have a very different structure that I know from other countries. The It's about 25 years ago, the government incentivized buying multiple homes and having investment properties, and there was like a tax benefit. So generationally, we're at the apex now of people, millennial, Gen Z, who want to get their first home, who are struggling to get into a market because since since COVID and bit before, but the prices have become so grand. So people who had investment properties can use that money to buy more, and people are being priced out. And and then the same comes with rent. So there's no restrictions on like
How
and then
high?
rent, yeah, how high it can go, what they can put it up to, and also the standard of the property. So people being priced out of rentals, priced out of buying a house. Um, and that is pressure. And there's also people who have a mortgage and the interest rates are either they were pretty high for people, and also people took like a maybe like a larger loan than houses were 10 years ago. And so that is a stress, like because housing is a human right, but it's been turned into a
Not
money
looking
making
very human
machine.
out there right now.
No, no.
That's
And
for
I was like,
sure.
at what point? Yeah. So, and it's very stressful for people because you need somewhere to live. So then it's like to what end? And then you do start thinking about the economy and futuristically for, I'm 37, so people my age, it's like there's that and how are we going to live? And then also what's the quality of how we're going to live, like with the climate and things that the government is investing in that maybe not all of us support. Yeah, so there's a lot of variables at play, and I definitely the political landscape has changed too, which is I have lived in the
Dramatically.
US. I'm very aware of, I'm a dual
Yeah.
citizen, very aware of the
It,
politics there, and
it's
I had grown
essentially
up here.
Barnum and Bailey circus over here.
And but growing up here, no one talked about who they were voting for. It was very quiet, but it's getting louder. And and I think that's really important. Having sort of spent my time in the US and supporting candidates, and yeah, it's just very interesting, yeah, to compare the cultural differences and what we're experiencing
Yeah.
economically. So the housing is huge for people, and other factors at play. And then who do they blame? It's that who can we point
Right.
at to sort of
Yeah.
distract? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've always been, housing is um, a real challenge worldwide. And I left the US
Mm,
and was hoping to live in Europe and move actually. And I ended
mm,
up in Ireland for much of the time. I went to Portugal thinking that might be
mm-hmm,
it. But the housing crisis in Europe is really terrible. Like when
mm-hmm,
we were in Ireland, I think we had in one year, I don't know how many times we moved, but we had to move over and over again because
mm-hmm,
you just couldn't find a place. And so,
mm-hmm,
um, and then in Portugal, they were basically all the properties there. We were just going to stay for 2 or 3 months, but the prices had gone up so high.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes it would be, $5,000, $10,000 a week, which is
mm-hmm.
ludicrous because they
Yes.
can get it they're competing with the Airbnb market.
Mm-hmm,
And so there was at that price, they were eliminating all the rental market for the people who were the citizens of the towns and cities. So
Hmm.
all these housing properties that used to be available for people to rent who didn't own, for the citizens, were now being rented at exorbitant
Hmm.
prices by
Yeah.
tourists.
Yeah.
And then they were getting angry at the tourists. But
Hmm.
I had to basically, have a conversation with a couple of people who projected that at us
Hmm.
because number one, I didn't want to pay those prices and refused to do so, which is why we kept moving.
Hmm.
But number two, I said, you have to understand your people are setting the market, not us.
Yes.
The greed is driving the market, but
Yeah.
your own people are being allowed to take residential rentals out of the market so that they can basically gouge whatever tourist who comes in with the biggest, checkbook and
Hmm.
charge them exorbitant prices, which should not be allowed. There should be caps. Countries can't just let Airbnb and
Hmm.
vacation housing or temporary housing take over the available rental supply because
Yeah.
that's going to create the conditions for a massive upheaval socially, politically, and economically. And in
Yes.
Ireland, it turned against the local people so badly that they started having riots in the streets of Dublin because
Hmm.
they were angry and projecting it out, again, projecting it out on the immigrants. But the
Yeah.
immigrants didn't set the price either.
Yeah. It's
The
always
people were
they're always a
allowed, and the
scapegoat.
governments have to step in and say, we are not, you cannot just take all the rentals off the market and raise all the prices and destroy our local economy. And then, of course, everybody suffers, including the people who created the conditions and caused the economic challenge in the
Yeah.
first place. And they're all crying because
Mm.
they're like, well, now everything is higher than it. Yeah, it's right. We
Yeah.
artificially create inflation by our behaviors and not being conscious.
Hmm.
And that's part of what money coaching is trying to also help people to see.
Yeah,
If we're
definitely.
not careful, we will create negative consequences, both politically, socially, and economically. But we
Hmm.
have to be the ones who make these choices more clearly and not from just a place of profit and greed.
Hmm.
Like, let's
Yeah.
look at how this affects our communities and
Yes.
our, local and global societies. But most people are just thinking about how much money they're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you if I hear anybody ever say, well, it's supply and demand. And I said, you know what? It's what the market will bear. And I said, there is no market. There's just humans.
Yes.
There's only
Yes.
humans, and they're not bearing anything well right now if you're paying attention.
No.
Because people in California, we know people who they've like literally had to rent a garage,
Hmm.
converted garage for $2,500.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking 500 square feet,
Yeah.
rented, converted garage, and
Yeah.
they're lucky to get it.
They're doing it here too.
Yeah, it's horrific as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
It's diabolical. The greed is astounding to what ends. Yeah, I and for us it's so in regional areas where like tourist destinations, there's a small amount of houses anyway. You need staff to come work seasonally and they need somewhere to live,
Yeah,
but there's nowhere for them to
exactly.
live because their houses are being Airbnb. And I was like, well, if you can't open anything in the town for supplies, supermarket, bakery, post office, why would people visit? So you just you eat yourself. Like it's the
That's right.
snake eating its tail. Like you can't, it's you take it too far and then yeah, you will
And
see what
there are,
happens.
and it trickles down from there into increasingly more inflation and, higher
Hmm.
prices everywhere.
Hmm.
And, and the government's, I don't think, actually reporting a lot of the numbers accurately because nobody
Hmm.
can tell me that we don't live in an inflationary environment. I don't care what
Hmm.
it says. I
Hmm.
I know what things cost a year ago and 2 years
Yeah.
ago and what they cost
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
They're up way more than the
Yeah.
inflation numbers indicate. Is it the same there too?
Yeah. So since I returned from New York in 21, so these 5 years, I've never seen costs rise as fast. And so that's
Mm.
probably the other part when I um spiral is because I'm not even 40. I was like, how long can this sustain? And are we going to bear the brunt of this? because I was like, what's the end goal here? I was like, we have a lot longer, you know, potentially to live. And like again, that's why I asked, like, what will the quality of life be? And how many of yeah, what will happen?
Well, there will be a correction.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've lived long enough already to see
It's
a
all
couple of them.
cyclical. Yeah.
And there will be a correction here, but it's going
Yeah.
to be painful when it hits.
Yeah. Yeah. And
There's
I
no doubt in my mind.
yeah, I remember so 2008 was the global financial crisis. I was 20. I was actually flying to the US for
Mm,
Thanksgiving in the air. I had US dollars. My grandma was giving me money. I was going with my mum, and I remember when we landed, like I guess the crash had happened, and my dad called my mum to be like, our dollar is like it's like 45 cents. So like everything was double for my mum, but I had the US dollar there, and I was like, huh. And then I remember watching. I just that at that point I got really interested in like what was happening with the housing, like how did it come to that? And I'm still learning about it, reading books about the different loan types and things and how it happened. But and I watch the Big Short like once a year. So I
yeah,
always get something new when I watch that
fabulous
film. But
movie. Everybody should
yeah,
be required to watch it.
oh, absolutely. And that I just get like um feelings of that now. I'm like, don't we all see like when you make things too big and like it's too good to be true? I'm feeling very Emperor's New Clothes. That's the
Oh,
vibe
yeah.
I'm getting. I'm like,
Yeah.
we there's you can't inflate things to a point where it's beneficial and that it is cyclical. That's what it had the amount of times it's happened in history, and I'm like it, yeah,
Well, if you
ebbs and
haven't seen The
flows.
Laundromat, you should watch that too because
Oh, I'll write that down.
that's Meryl Streep, and it is very similar, but it lets you
Mm-hmm.
know that they basically just doing it again, and they
Yeah.
always find new ways to do it because they repackage the investments and they call them
Mm-hmm.
something else. And I, as a former investment advisor, was really hip
Yeah.
to that trick when the
Yeah.
CMOs came out, and I was told by my then broker dealer, oh, this is, we
Mm-hmm.
want you to sell these. I read the prospectus and I said, I won't sell this. And he said, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's, we want everybody to be on board. And I said, first of all, I don't, I make my own investment choices. I told you that when we
Mm-hmm.
walked in the door. Secondly, um, I don't know how you've sliced and diced this thing, but none
Mm-hmm.
of it makes sense to me. Can you explain it to me? And he said,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's what we have the analyst for. And I said, I'm sorry, but if I don't understand it, I will not put it in front of a client. It's that
Yeah.
simple. So
Yeah.
no, you can take these if you'd like. I won't be doing it.
Yeah.
And I was
Uh,
gone within the year. And, of
yeah.
course, that whole thing was a house of cards, but
Yes.
I have a nose for that sort of thing, thank God.
Mm.
And,
Mm.
but, that's the other thing is that very often, even the people who are good investment people. They're just
Mm.
taking the advice of the
Mm.
analysts.
Mm.
And I'm not so sure that's a great idea all the time unless you do
Mm-hmm.
your own research on it in addition to that.
Yes, to
And
understand it.
you
And
really use, critical thinking when you're reading, and
yeah.
prospectus essentially are written by lawyers to
Mm.
protect them. And they read sort of like, it's like reading, the telephone book when we used to have them. you know,
Mm-hmm. I remember.
there isn't really anything more boring to read than a prospectus, but it does need to
Yes.
be read. So,
Yes. There's a comedian who used to he talks about his in the US, he talks about his experience as a selling subprime mortgages. And he was very young, and he talked about when he also bought a house and then the market crashed. And but to hear him talk about the day in, day out, and just you were made sure like everyone got a loan, like
oh yeah,
regardless of whether they were employed or what
right.
their income. And I was like,
Or
yeah,
how
it was the
many, yeah,
perfect storm. And I
yeah,
and yeah, you see the same in the movie, and I'm just like I worry that yeah, and it's very different setup here that you don't have the same interest rate for 30 years. So again, for people to understand, yeah, I'm always like advocating for people to understand compound interest and to
yeah.
use
So
calculators
really,
to
the
project.
basics are really important,
Yes.
like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm a big believer that if you don't, whatever isn't being taught is also very intentional because
Yes,
if you
that's what I was
don't
going to
teach
say.
people,
Hmm.
they're much easier to control.
Yes, and I hear a lot of people say, we weren't taught this, we weren't taught this. And yeah, I understand, but also what were we taught? How much are you recalling from what we were taught? We all were like, when are we going to use this algebra?
Yeah,
Like that was
pretty
like, the
much,
party
pretty
line.
much.
Yeah, and I think I th my thing is, which is probably now that you've said from the creator artist, is I want people to be like critical thinkers in terms of government and policy, and I want them to see anything that is encouraging you to buy a house or maybe supports you like, parental leave, that's great. I want everyone to see that as a bonus, not
Hmm.
as oh, I have that, therefore like I'm good to go. I'm like, think of everything as a plus, not just like I don't want you to solely rely on that because
Yeah.
it can change. And that's what I tried to explain to people, even with our retirement fund super. So the percentage was 9.5%. And in these 5 years, they finally changed it and it went to like 11.5 and now it's at 12 because they too realized like we can't keep the same percent of like being deposited because the way the cost of things is going up. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to be able to question them and have pushback because the government has all these programs to incentivize buying a home. And I remember, again, when I was 20, so 08, 09, when they had, it was like you got $20,000
Hmm.
like bonus for buying a house, 0% deposit. Like nothing, you
Wow.
didn't, and that was to incentivize people to buy house, obviously.
Yeah.
And then now they're doing a 5% deposit. You don't need any lender's mortgage insurance, and it's not capped there's no cap, I think, on the income. They just changed it like the beginning of October, but there is a cap
Wow.
on the price of the house. So now the houses are 850, before it was 600. So
Wow.
now all it did was, shocking, push up the price of the houses above and the apartments. So
Yeah.
yeah, and the
No,
way
not
it's,
really beneficial.
no, and the way it's romanticized here, I'm not dismissing home ownership, but I wish people would run the numbers in a mortgage calculator of how much it really costs just for the mortgage and then actually I have like a faux budget of repairs, insurances, rates, and what it would cost me really per week singularly
Hmm.
to like
Hmm.
have a mortgage, and it doesn't work out for me. But like it's
Hmm.
not something I want to invest in right now. But here it's like very, yeah, you buy a house. Whereas in the States, especially in New York, we weren't we you rented most people. So it's very different
Very, very
and
unaffordable.
different price. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And even, the Bay Area is the same. It's like
Oh
ludicrous
yeah. Yeah.
for some of the
Yeah.
most expensive real estate in the world here.
Hmm. I
But,
was
it's
yeah.
sadly, wages are not
No, that's the other
such
part.
that really people can do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the
and I
wages
just
haven't.
yeah, and I think the thing is that, again, the money coaching part of this is that people are, you see it in families, we're real estate people, and they
Hmm.
won't invest in stocks, and
Hmm.
or people who just won't invest in anything, and
Hmm.
or people who absolutely insist that no matter at whatever cost that they have to buy a house, even if they can't afford the house, and then they end up
Hmm.
living a life that, now they're in a constant struggle, and God
Hmm.
forbid something goes wrong with the house, what are they going to do? So it's like these are mostly emotional and behavioral decisions
Hmm.
all by itself around,
Hmm.
choosing to own or not own and at what cost,
Hmm.
and that's a big conversation now because we don't buy homes for 30, $40,000 a year, or 30, $40,000 like our parents did.
Hmm.
Now the starting point for a home in my neighborhood is about 850,000, and that's not
Hmm.
even a big house.
Yeah.
You know,
And the other part is friends who are purchasing, they're buying houses from people who, in the generation before, maybe they were living very frugally or just within their means, but the houses need repair.
a
So
lot.
they're paying a lot more money for these houses. They also have to update and upgrade them. And that's something interesting I noted too, is yeah, just like people immediately wanting to change like, yeah, there's always like more money to be spent.
Yeah. It almost
Yeah.
at some point I feel like becomes a bit of an obsession for people. Like,
Mm.
and I don't,
Ah,
you know,
yes, that's very
but and
interesting.
it and
Yes.
it's a metaphor, of course, because they're trying to
Yes.
fix something, you know,
Yeah.
what are they really not wanting to address that needs fixing?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
instead the thing becomes
Hmm.
redirected in a
Totally.
constant. War of the Roses is a great movie for that purpose, right? Because it's
Yes.
all, they start, it's the money pit, right? But it's
Yep.
really the relationship that's having the issue, and the
Yep.
metaphor is all the how money and everything else
Yep.
becomes, you know, it
Yes.
looks like a money issue, but it's not really ever a money issue.
Yeah. It can be a form of avoidance.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Let's just
But
stay distracted. So,
yes. Or just I'm going to do this now because I don't want to think about, yeah,
yeah.
what's going on over here. Yeah.
And I understand. I understand
Totally.
why people don't want to, but it's
Yeah.
always better when you do. And that's what
Mm.
I'd just like everybody to know here, by the way. As much as we resist wanting to go and to do work that might be deeper and might even bring up
Hmm.
some stuff that's uncomfortable or
Hmm.
even painful, the fact of the matter is on the other side of it, when it's done, boy,
Mm.
is your life going to improve. And better yet, you're going to feel a lot better.
Yes.
Feel better, actually, which
Yes.
is kind of important.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, if you want to share anything that you have
Hmm.
going on in the future, and also how people can connect with you, email,
Hmm.
website, whatever you'd like to share, because I think
Hmm.
people would like to know.
So my Instagram handle is ms.knowyourworth, KNOW, and my website address is the same, so it's ms.knowyourworth.com.au. You can subscribe to my email list. So that's what I'm working on for this year is building my community for my future launch for my group container work. And yeah, and then my contact details are on the website if you ever want to get in touch, and you can take my money type quiz. And yeah, that's me.
Great. Are you on LinkedIn too?
Oh, yes, I am under my name. Yes, Jacinta Ebsworth.
Okay, everybody, you got that? So thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time and for all the wonderful conversation that we've had here today. It's been very interesting,
Yeah.
and I'll want to know more about what you're doing in the future. So please stay in
Mhm.
touch.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks. Bye bye. We'll be seeing you all again in the next episode.